Hello and welcome back to another video. So as I'd say you can see behind me, it is a fairly frosty one here again, but it's an absolutely beautiful day. I'll try and get the snow on the mountains in a while if I get a chance, but as you can see, I have my emergency bath here outside the shed that I thought I might need in case the pipes froze and didn't thaw, but today seems to be the last day of the cold weather, so unless it stays freezing all day today, I won't actually need it. It was kind of thawing at around 2 or 3 o'clock every day, so it was fine. I had buckets on the truck for the small ones anyway, so that kept us going, and the fact that the cows were on silage, they didn't really need it until then anyway. And it's always a good sign when it starts thawing and they're not fighting over the drinker. They obviously weren't thirsty. But as I mentioned, today is the last of the cold weather, so what comes after frost? Lots and lots of rain. So that is what is forecast for more or less the foreseeable now. So I need to get the weanlings or / almost yearlings out and weigh them and dose them. I'll probably weigh the 3 in the middle as well just to see. So I'm going to go up now. I have the scales out, but I need to go up and get the weigh bars. Dad is after banjaxing himself. To be honest, I think he was doing too much in the shed, even though he won't admit that, but he's got a bad pain in his neck now, so I'd say I'll be on my own today. I must go up now and see if he's better, but if not, I'll just work away on my own. Sure, I know what I'm doing at this stage. The biggest pain is just getting the weighing scales out and into position, so maybe my sister will take 2 minutes away from work to just run down and lift it with me. Otherwise I'll just bring down the gaiter and shimmy it some way into position. But yeah, so I will get going with that anyway, because I want to make the most of this dry weather. I've the pens to clean out and all sorts as well, so it's going to be a busy day. Oh, and before I forget, the silage results are back. So I did up a bit of an very small Excel for myself just to compare the two, so I wasn't flicking back and forth between first cut and second cut. So I might show you the results of those because it is quite interesting. I won't go through all the figures, but I'll give you an idea anyway of how that was. But I think I'll get this done first, and we can talk about that afterwards when everyone is fed and quiet. And I was finally ready to weigh. So I was going to do this in real time and just show you exactly what I was doing at the time I was doing it. But unfortunately, I think I spent more time giving out to them and trying to manage the others rather than concentrating on saying what I was doing while I was weighing and dosing them. So it's just going to have to be a voiceover, I'm afraid. So ideally, if I had someone with me, I'd just bring them out one at a time because it's a lot easier. But of course, when I was on my own, I just brought the whole lot out and used the bar to separate them. As you can see, they didn't have much respect for the bar. Bar is not working out for me, to be honest. But look, we got there in the end. It's fine when they're smaller. But each one got weighed. Then they got dosed. Obviously, the weighing was to also determine how much of a dose they need, just to make sure that they're getting enough, but yet they're not getting too much. To be honest, the weighing didn't go as well as I thought it was going to. Looking at them, I thought they were coming on well, especially the bigger ones seemed to be putting on a nice bit of condition. Sheehan was 419 kg, so look, I can't really complain about that. But his daily gains was only in the 0.6s, which is massively disappointing compared to where he was the last time I weighed him. It was actually the black and white heifer calf that did the best. She was 1.2, I think, kg a day, which is fantastic, and it just shows that having her out on her own is the right thing to do. Averages for the weanlings was only 0.79 of a kg per day, which I'm really, really disappointed with. The white Simmental, I keep thinking she's a Shirley, but she did quite well. She was in the high 8s, but the little one behind her only 0.22. So she's going straight back out on her own once I'm back from the UK. Then I moved on to the ones in the middle, hoping that things would be a little bit better, but unfortunately it got worse. These guys were in the low 0.7s on average, with the Shirley, who I don't have here recorded, with the highest. She was over the 1%, so that'll tell you how poor these two were. I can't understand it because I think they look better than they did the last time. But it is disappointing that they're only hitting those gains, so we'll see in another few weeks what they're at. But that was them done after a fair bit of hardship. And then, sorry, I have the camera the other way around, so it's probably throwing you. But it was just a case of spotting her for the cows, and they were not bother at all, to be fair to them. So I got rid of the scales before I ran them out. Now everyone is relatively quiet in here. They're all weighed, dosed, fed, watered, bedded, the whole lot. So I'm going to try and go through the silage results as quickly as I can while they behave themselves. So we'll see how we get on. Two things to note with the silage. So first thing is, I haven't included all the figures that come on the report because, to be honest, this is my first year doing it. I don't know enough about it. So these are the things that we kind of focused on when we got it back. If anyone feels I'm missing something or focusing on the wrong things, please let me know, because I'd rather know, to be honest. And then second of all, just to note while we're going through it, first cut was cut in the end of May and second cut was the middle of August. So it's just something to bear in mind. I'm going to flash up an Excel that I did up just because it's easier to read the first and second cut instead of flicking back and forth between the reports. Very basic, but it's up there. The first thing you'll see is analysis, optimal, first cut, second cut. So the optimal is what we're aiming for, obviously. So you'll see under analysis, dry matter. So we're looking for 28% dry matter. So you'll see the first cut there, we're too wet, supposedly. And then the second cut, we're too dry. Now, I am pretty sure that is just the case with the sample we sent off, because I did notice at the start our first cut was a lot wetter than it is now, and our second cut was actually drier than what it is now. So I think it was just kind of the luck of the draw. Whatever way the bales were stacked was how they were laid out in the field. And but it's definitely, I would say it's the other way round now. But basically, if your silage is too dry, they say it makes it difficult to compact it and preserve it in the bales, which, to be honest, I haven't seen an issue with, thankfully. Bales have been fantastic. We've had very little mold, just tiny little patches on the odd bale, which is amazing compared to last year. I put a lot of that down to the film as well instead of the netting. There is no way I would ever go back to netting after having the film this year. But anyway, then they say if it's too wet, it reduces the intake by the animal, so it can affect their gains, obviously, and their performance. Again, I'm not having an issue with that, but again, I don't think the first cut is actually wet. I think it was just probably the sample that went off. Then in terms of protein, you're looking for 16%. We had a massive 20.6% on the first cut, which is unbelievable. I wasn't expecting that. And then a big drop to 14.9 in the second cut. But really, if you're looking at what we're aiming for, we're not a million miles away, so I'm still quite happy. In terms of protein, they say basically the leafy grass cut early in the year is where you'll get your protein. As the season goes on then and the months pass, the protein kind of depletes. And then as well, if you have stemmy grass that you've just kind of left go too long, whether it be weather or whatever, that tends to reduce the amount of protein in it. So something Dad has always tried to instill in me since I started with him is feed the silage ground first before we put slurry on it, and then we go from there. And his logic behind that is they feed it down to, you know, a decent level. You put the slurry on it, and then you have that green leafy grass. And when you cut it, you'll see there's far less of that white root. If you're cutting and you see your silage is more white than it is green, you've a lot of stem in it, and then as a result you're going to have lower protein. So it does make sense. In fairness to the man, he knows what he's talking about. So then on to DMD, which is dry matter digestibility. So you're looking for over 72% there to be what you're aiming for. We had a lovely 75.7% in the first cut, and then a big drop to 68.2 in the second cut. Now, not a disaster for the second cut, but it's amazing. And they do always say the earlier you cut in the year, the higher the DMD, and it kind of decreases as the months go by then. And the higher the DMD, the higher the feed value. So obviously you're going to get better daily gains the higher feed value you have. So that's that. Then you have the ME, which is your energy. So you want to be looking at greater than 11 megajoules per kg. So we had 11.5 in the first cut and 10.3 in the second cut. So basically, the more energy you have in your silage, the more value you're going to get per kg that you're feeding them. So you need to give them less to get more, basically. So again, it's kind of a quality over quantity scenario, I suppose. Then sugars is where we're kind of all over the place, if I'm being honest. You're looking at about 3%. As far as I'm aware, it's not a massive deal, but if I am wrong in saying that, please do let me know. But our first cut, there's pretty much no sugar in it at 0.2%. And then our second cut, I think I'm going to give the bloody cows diabetes or something with 5.5%. So it's just a bit all over the place, as I said. Now, the sugars are linked to the dry matter. So the lower the dry matter, the lower the sugars, and the higher the dry matter, the higher the sugars. As far as I'm aware, it's not a massive deal, hopefully. Then on to ash. So you are looking for less than 8 in the ash. We were 10.9 and 9.4%. So with ash, it's basically contamination of the soil. No, let me say that again. It's a contamination of the silage by soil. So somehow soil is getting into the silage. I believe it has an impact on the copper, and therefore it impacts the rumen. So it's probably one that we need to see if we can get a bit lower. I'm not entirely sure how it happens, but we are a little bit high on that. So it'll be interesting to see now this year if we can get that a bit lower. And then pH, you're looking for a 4. We were a 4.1 and a 4.8. So I'm fairly happy with that. They do say low pH can impact the rumen function and it lowers it, and then a high pH can impact the fermentation. So I'm not overly worried about the 4.5 because I don't think it's had an impact, and at 4.1 we're pretty much bang on. So I am happy with that. So they're the main things we're looking at. Overall, I would say if I can do a first cut like I did in 2023 this year, I will be very, very happy. You know, our DMD and our protein massively stand out there, and as I said, our daily gains have been fantastic. There has been a bit of a slowdown, not entirely sure. We'll see again in another 3 weeks or so. If it was just a little blip, I don't know what it was, but overall the animals are definitely better this year, and that can be a combination of different things we've done. You know, the rubber mats might be impacting it, the fact that they went out in February last year might be impacting it, and of course the silage has to be contributing something to it. So yeah, if anybody has any questions or comments on that, do let me know, because this stuff really does interest me, and I think it is important to know what you're feeding your cattle, especially, you know, when you're trying to make something out of them, when you're finishing them like we are this year. If you're buying feed, you'll look at the percentages of protein and what's in it and what are you feeding them. So why wouldn't you do the same for silage? And it's not something that we have done before. This is the first year that we've done it, and we will definitely be doing it in future again, because I think it is really worthwhile. I think the silage samples in conjunction with the weighing scales is massive, and I know I've mentioned the weighing scales before in terms of monitoring how they're doing, but I do think putting the two together is fantastic, because you can see what's going into them and then the result of what you're doing. You know, it's great to be able to just quantify it on the scales then after you've seen it. But that's it, that's it for the silage, and that's pretty much it for me for the day. As I mentioned, I'm away in the UK for work for 3 nights now, so it's going to be in Rob and Dad's hands. One thing before I go, if anybody has any solution to rats, can you please let me know? We've tried different types of baits. I've tried a better bait. I have the bait in kind of gutter piping. I move it around. I have even like set little traps where I put a couple of nuts into it right beside the poison. It's not doing anything. We have to do it, because the last night I turned on the camera there was 4 in here. I am pretty sure one of them like hit off my welly the last day. I can't be entirely sure because I was on the phone, but something like ran into my Wellington, and I think it was a rat, and I have it in my head now that it was a rat. So I really just want to try and get rid of them. This cold weather obviously is bringing them in as well, and when you're feeding cattle the ration, it's near impossible to keep them out. But if anybody has a way of controlling them, I also tried a trap with peanut butter, didn't go near it, so I'm kind of out of ideas, to be honest. So if anybody had any tips, please do let me know. But I'll leave it there, and as always, thanks again for watching. If you liked it, give me a like, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. Thank you.